Welcome, friends, to First Word. Pastor Dave here, coming to you from beautiful Linwood, Minnesota. April 8th is when we're recording this. Everything is starting to be right with the world. It's Masters weekend. Baseball is underway. The Twins are off to a 4-2 start. So that is fun. Home opener today for the Twins. So if you're a sports fanatic like me, it's a good day. Today's a little bit of a rainy day. We're looking forward to some sunshine and the green grass to really take off here in Minnesota with our early spring this year. We're going to pause and study the book of Mark together. We're in Mark chapter 12. Jesus had been being peppered with questions, and now the table is turned. Jesus is going to ask a question himself. We're going to read 3 different little short stories that end the chapter 12. Jesus is in Jerusalem for the last time, nearing the crucifixion. He's been teaching in the temple. Mark 12, starting in verse 35 to 44. While Jesus was teaching in the temple courts, he asked, "Why do the teachers of the law say that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself, speaking by the Holy Spirit, declared," and here he quotes Psalms 110, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet." David himself calls him Lord. How then can he be called his son? The large crowd listened to him with delight. As he taught, Jesus said, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces, and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely." Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she gave out of her poverty, put in everything, all that she had to live on." The word of the Lord. All right. So Jesus is in the temple, and in an unusual fashion, he raises a question about his identity. Why do they call the Messiah the son of David? Now, this is a confusing question, and it's confusing even for scholars. They argue about this. I'm going to say what I think is most likely what Jesus was really getting at. Some seems like he's denying his Davidic lineage, which would be a problem because the Messiah is supposed to come from the line of David. But I think the answer in the end is fairly clear. Mark is continually asking this question: who is the Messiah? And who, most importantly, who is Jesus? In Mark chapter 8, if you look at that chapter, Mark was showing that Jesus was greater than the prophets, than any of the prophets. And in this story, it's showing that Jesus is saying he is greater than David. He's not just the son of David, he's the creator of David. He is the Lord of Lords and the King of Kings. And so these questions keep getting pointed to this who is Jesus? The question that the Pharisees and scribes were struggling with, the disciples are struggling with, that you and I must struggle with. Who, in fact, is David? He says David calls the Messiah Lord. How then can he be his son? And the crowd listened to him eagerly or with delight. It was interesting, fascinating. Jesus then challenges the people who are representing God to their people. So Jesus and the Pharisees were really similar, but the Pharisees were representing God to their people, and Jesus really held their feet to the fire because it seems Jesus doesn't like to be misrepresented by those who say they follow him. And so as the Pharisees were supposed to show the world, and the Israelites were supposed to show the world who the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was like, Jesus challenged them. Jesus, who came and washed feet, who was born in a barn, challenges the leaders who strive to remind people of their importance with their long robes and their lengthy prayers. And then there was this condemnation of those who exploit the poor and the helpless, devouring the widows' houses. And this is throughout the Old Testament that this is challenged whenever rich people use their power to get richer on the backs of poor people. Here is one example in Isaiah 10. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless. This whole idea that God is watching and he sees this and that he will make it right. Woe to those who do that. And it's an encouragement even today that we should be making sure we are not participating in that and that we are defending those who are powerless, who are being exploited, that as the church, we come behind and we lift those people up. We look for those people. Then in contrast to rich people exploiting poor people to get richer, we have this poor widow with just a few coins, but she gives them to the temple. And the coin that she gave was the smallest in circulation in Palestine, so it would be like our penny. And there was people giving large amounts out of their wealth, but she just gave these two little insignificant pennies. And Jesus notices it, and he calls the disciples over and says, guys, look at that. Did you see that? Her offering was acceptable because it was given out of this depth of love of God and love of neighbor, which we talked about yesterday. We'll see another gift in chapter 14. Next week, we're going to dive into a complicated chapter, chapter 13. Jesus is talking about the future. In chapter 14, we see another woman that takes a very expensive perfume, and the disciples get angry because it could have been used to help the poor. It was worth like a year's wage, so that's a lot of money. And she gives this expensive perfume and she pours it over Jesus' head in a lavish manner. And they're both complimented. Both these women are complimented by Jesus because they have seemed to have rightly seen and understood the heart of God. And that's what God desires, is for us to know his heart and to love him and to follow him and to be in a personal relationship with him. And so Jesus sees both of these as radical acts of generosity. God, I think in our life, often calls us to actions that makes other person's head scratch. If you only have 2 small coins and you give them both away, if you have a perfume worth a year's wages and you pour it over a man's head, actions that make others scratch their heads, Jesus often calls us to those kinds of things. And so a good thing to consider and pray if there's something in your life, a radical action, just to be aware, not every day, but someday God will call that out of us. Friends, I hope this Thursday, we're filming this, whatever day you're watching this or listening, that it's a good day for you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Next week, Monday, we'll start to dive into Mark 13. I encourage you to read it. Challenging passage. Thanks for joining us for First Word. Artwork by Emily Lemon. Sound production by Chris Stoltzman. And we'll leave you with some original music by my friend Lonnie Leo. Have a good day.